Good evening, everybody. I would say, can we formally do it? We've got, I think, on my watch, which is generally always running late, about a minute to go. Farmer, I think we know that there are 400 people that have signed up to this evening, and we're halfway there. So I think we'll give it the next couple of minutes. But those of you that are already online, good evening. It's really cool to be hosting this evening. My name is Doug, and I was doing some reflecting of my time at the sani2c, and geez, when I started out, Farmer, when you first invited me there, I was still in my late 20s, and that got me thinking to how the event has just evolved into this incredible story of community for the people that live in the communities from Underberg through to Scottborough, but equally the community of riders that are part of the broader Cup sani2c family. So I guess that's part of what we will touch on this evening and talk a little bit about. So welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Just some rules about this evening. If all of you could stay on mute, that would be great. We're going to open up for Q&A at the end of the conversation. The bottom of your screens there, I can see chat starting to come through now. It's going to be very tricky for us to monitor all of those. So I'd ask you to please use the Q&A tab to send through those questions and answers. But while we're waiting for people to join in, Farmer, how are things going in Vanderburg?
Yeah, good, Doug? Yeah, we had sun for the first time in days, so we've had proper rain. I mean, we mustn't moan about the rain. All the dams are full. Some have burst. I went through to Cockstead the other day, and I saw 2 dams just with mud in them. So it's quite sad from that point of view, where it's been so dry for so long, and now we're getting all this rain. So, but I suppose that's where the saying comes from. It never rains, it pours. And yeah, so the cows have taken strain this year as far as the dairy farmers. You know, their milk's down, cows just in the mud. It's just horrific. So yeah, it's pretty much like New Zealand, I suppose.
Yeah, standard day in New Zealand. Farmer, come on, you guys got to toughen up there. Huh?
Yeah. I know.
Have all the wood chips been diverted from the race village to the farm now?
Yeah, Doug, I mean, it's scary. So I mean, we literally haven't been able to get into anywhere with trucks. I mean, the roads have been horrific. We've had, I mean, just pulling milk trucks out and meadow feed trucks in, and yeah. So I mean, I've never seen rain like this. I've lived here all my life, and I've never ever seen this much rain. And springs coming out of roads that I've never seen before. You know, in the middle of a road, all of a sudden there's a spring water pouring out of it. So the water table's really full. Yeah, so it's been a challenging year, you know, and it's not over yet. There's more rain forecast for this weekend. So we think we're making a bit of headway on the route, and then it just takes us back to square one, which is frustrating. But you know, I mean, basically what our route builders are all people from along the route. So you know, we're sort of achieving what we set out to do, which is to create opportunity for people along the route. So they're getting lots of work and they're happy. And yeah, we're employing, sort of bolstering all the teams, employing more people in different areas. You know, we've had lots of landslides, you know, especially on the Amkamas, on those steep slopes. So there's a whole lot of strong men there with picks and spades every day, trying to clear those. So yeah, lots of challenges, but yeah, we'll get there.
So I think we've rolled on to that time now. It's just about 6:05, and I think being conscious of everyone's time this evening, unless you're like myself with 2 young kids at home and I've been able to escape back to the office during crisis hours, it's actually quite a convenient time for me to be here. So thank you, Farmer. Snuck out of my duties for the evening. But yeah, formally welcome everybody. My name is Doug and I'm hosting you here this evening. It's a great privilege to be chatting to Farmer Glen. We've had to make a couple of assumptions of who's going to be tuning in this evening. And for the most part, although we've seen Roy Cackett and Petrus van Peters, who's a Black Mamba, it's a lot of guys that have ridden the race for many, many years here this evening. But we're going to be talking this evening for the most part as though you're a first-time rider coming through to the Cup sani2c. So if that's what you have signed up for, you've come to the right place. If you've ridden it many times, hang in there. You might learn something new. So yeah, it's great to be here. And I think those of you that have tuned in the last 30 seconds, we were talking a little bit about the challenges facing Farmer Glen and his team on the route with the massive rains that they've had in KZN. I think just to note that for the most part, Farmer, if I'm right, it was mostly heavy rainfall on the coast, so 300 mils plus down there, but where you guys are now up in Underberg and even parts of day 2, still big rain, 150 mils plus. But what is the elephant in the room right now? Everyone wants to know, what is the state of the trails?
No, I mean, we're going to get them sorted, Doug. So they're looking good. I mean, we've started back at the top again. So we have a team of 30 people that are actually came and checked out now. So they actually have to drive up to Underberg. So they leave. I mean, some of the guys are waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. The labor truck then picks them up and they on site to start working at 7. So it takes time just to get them to the right place. But we basically, today was the first good day of sun. So we started at the top. We've got teams working all the way down the route at specific sections. So sections where we've got like lots of work, where there's been landslides and we sort of build up little stone walls down the Umkomaas drop, and those are all gone. So they're building more stone walls and carting rocks in and putting soil in. So today was really the first day we could get back to it after that rain. It was just too dangerous actually to try and get those teams into work there because it was still slipping and it was just too wet. So we had a look at it yesterday, and then we decided, okay, today we can get stuck in there. So yeah, so where there's lots of work, the guys, we've got in teams specifically working in that little section, but then just the whole route basically has to get redone. They starting and slashing and raking, but we'll get it done. There's no ways we don't get it done. Even today, Pila and the guys who's in charge of the team that came up, I mean, I got there at about 4 o'clock and they, you must understand, they got a 2-hour drive to get home. And he said, no, they've got to finish Great Oak today. That was the plan. They've got to get to the bottom. So they all motivated, they chuffed, no one's moaning about long hours. They just really appreciative of the work, but it's going to be a bit of a tough ask for them for now, but we've got time. Fortunately, it wasn't a week before the event.
Well, let's hope. Yeah, geez, let's hold thumbs there, Farm. Have you got something wooden near you? Touch wood. Everyone that's on this, all 317, touch your heads right now. Let's make sure that we don't get this just before the event or during the event. But that's, Farm, that's one thing that's always fascinated me about your team and yourself and your ability to adapt to really challenging situations. I mean, there's been a number of events where we've had to really look quite closely at whether day 2 is going to be rideable down into the Umko Valley or not. And sometimes, I mean, when we've been staying over at your homestead, we've heard you on the phone at 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning, making the call saying, listen, guys, we're going to have to divert. And somehow miraculously water points are moved and, the police are in the right place at 4-way stop streets. And all of those types of things are switched on. It's always been fascinating to me about how in touch you are with the community and they are with you in terms of turning things around. I guess this is now just all happening a bit, as you say, sooner and before the race. How do you keep them motivated?
I think we've sort of, the event's 18 years old now. So you have that honeymoon phase where everyone's excited, and then you go through a little bit of a, where you've got to really motivate people to get stuck in, because some people are asking questions and there's lots of talk going around. And then slowly but surely, probably after about 10 years, everyone who in the communities realize what this is about. They see for themselves. Initially, they sort of hearing stories, and then they eventually see for themselves that their school fees are a third of what they should be, and they realize what this event means to their community. And then it's been easy from then. So they really value it, and they've realized what it has done for them, and they've seen it themselves, they've experienced it themselves. So, when you have a pep talk with them and say to them, well, listen, you know what, this is where we need to be. We need to get this done by this time. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter if it's a Sunday or if it's an Easter Monday or it's Easter now, but we're working, and everyone's happy to work. And I mean, you don't, it's not like you're taking advantage of people that aren't employed, but they really do have no other real option. They don't have a permanent job. We probably employ them for 4 months of the year. if they're really good and they show potential, then we keep some of the guys and we upskill them, and they've moved on to places like Glen that they've built over the years, and now that's a sold out wedding venue year round. As a wedding, I mean, it's sold out till 2023, and on wedding weekends that employs up to 60 people. So there is opportunity for them to better themselves, if they show real initiative and hard work. Hard work's my number one.
Well, talking about initiative and hard work, you'd sent through on WhatsApp, I think it was about a week and a half ago, before, well, probably a bit longer than that now, 2.5 weeks ago, before the rains came, there was that massive boulder that had somehow rolled its way with the general seasonal rains onto the actual track, descending into the Umkomaas. And I'm not sure how many of you follow us on social media. If you don't, check us out on Instagram @_sani2c, and you'll see some pictures of the size of this boulder farm. I think you said it was the size of a caravan that had rolled onto the track, and how the team had basically figured out they couldn't crowbar this thing out, they couldn't leverage it out with long sticks and poles, and I mean they physically stacked logs and timber around it and heated it up and let it cool down, and then for the most part cracked this thing in half and into pieces. I mean, that's real initiative.
Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, you can't get an excavator there. It's pick and spade. That's all Murray's Meander there. It was all built by hand with picks and spades, and even a mini excavator can't get there. It's just, it's literally sheer cliffs for those of you who want to know. But on your left side, it's just too narrow for a mini excavator even. So it's like 1.2 meters wide in places, and there's rocks and things that would the excavator just slides. So you can't even get our mini excavator there. So everything's by hand. But, as I said to the guys, I said, well, this is, this is work. It's better than sitting at home and not getting any money. I mean, it's a lot of money we're sending out, but we've also got great sponsors, and lots of people have bought into our sort of development trust. So that helps a lot. That's really helped us being able to employ people for much longer. And people don't realize how difficult, you ride across it. I mean, people are going to go past that rock it's not even going to take them 2 seconds,
Yeah.
And these guys were working on that one single rock for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they got it moved, and they built the retaining wall, or this, like, they call it like a rock wall, and they put rocks and they fill. So it's like a gabion basket type setup without the gabions. And I mean, they built that. That took them another few weeks. So they spent a month there working flat out on this thing, carting logs from miles away, rolling them down the cliffs, and then carting them in, and then every morning carrying 20-liter scoop from their houses on their way to work that they pour on the rock to crack it, and then they start the process all over again that evening or that afternoon. They light the fire again, and they do the same thing for 3 weeks. They did that, and they moved the rock, and we'd no sooner moved it. I actually went down there on my motorbike and saw it for the first time, that it was all nicely done, and they were all very proud of their work. And the rain came that night, and now the whole thing's gone again. So the whole thing is now slipped. Fortunately, there's no rock, but the landslide has taken all their rock wall away. So they, you would think they'd be despondent, but they stuck in. They flat out there again. So hopefully you see it when you ride past there, but it's just before you get onto Nick's Pass, basically. Before that. I
think we're going to have to put something there that marks the spot, so everyone that's on this chat can appreciate the work that's gone into that. So yeah, I guess now that we're feeling a bit more confident that all is in hand, and the route is definitely going to be ready. I know we've talked a lot about day 2. I would say, Farmer, that the general soil profiles between Underberg and the end of day 2 are a lot more stable than what you'd see on day 3. Seeing some flash erosion coming out of pictures on the end of day 3. But for the most part, apart from Tagati Bush and others, Vernon Crook's where you've got established indigenous vegetation, probably not too much to worry about there, and the rest of it is pretty sandy road. So what's day 3 looking like?
Yeah, day 3 where there were big erosion gullies, so approaches to bridges washed away, and rivers really came down and flooded and gouged them out. But it's sandy soil there, as you say, so that's easy to fix, and it's always nice to work there because you're going to go there.
Yeah.
I always in the back of my mind think we're doing all this work on the Umkomaas, and if we have 5 mils of rain while we're all sleeping at Mackenzie, we go around, so you can do all that work on that 30, well, it's more because you're going up Steve Spruit.
Yes.
So
yeah,
60 Ks of route, you can work flat out with, 120 people for 4 months, getting that prepared and building bridges and carting planks and logs and, to get across all those little streams in Steve Spruit. And then you don't even go there. It's happened, it's hopefully it doesn't happen this year, but you don't need much rain not to be able to get down that red clay. I think the year that the race didn't go down 2 years ago, one team decided they were going to go down, and they were picked up way before halfway at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
The guys went to take the bridge down that was across the Umkomaas. My son was there, and he said, "Hey, Dad, there's 2 oaks that have ridden over this bridge. I've seen their muddy tracks on the bridge." I said, "No, man, it's impossible." And then he said, "No, it's genuine. He can see, and he can check the tires. It's these tires." He's looked in the mud. He told, it's not just some oak going to count as cattle or something. It's a proper mountain bike. It's got these tires on. So we didn't know who it was. And then late in the afternoon, 5:30, Skim Schoen phones me and says, "Hey, he's picked these 2 muddy-looking cyclists up. He thinks they lost because they're not where everyone else is." It was 2 guys that decided they're going to try and go down there. And I know, I've done it. I've tried it. You literally cannot push your bike, let alone think of riding it. And so it's very unfortunate when we do get rain just before going down the Umko. So let's hold thumbs, because this year we probably spent 3 years of working there. It's been a huge amount of work, but let's hope some of us go at least. Maybe non-stop will go. No one else will.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm feeling good vibes from the. I mean, look, to be honest, the only significant stage race in the country to happen during time of COVID, I think, when it comes to overcoming challenges, Farmer, you and your team are known for being able to overcome those challenges. So no doubt we're going to be in for a great day to come the event this year. And I think on that note, maybe we start to I'm very well prepared here. I've got a pen. You see, this is very important. I don't know how well it's going to come up, but if you look at the start here in Underberg, oh, hang on, no, it's got to be green, Farmer? Yeah, it's green.
Very green.
Yeah, Underberg's green here. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. And then, can you see it? Probably not. And then down here, it's blue. And then if you connect those 2 dots, Underberg at 1,600 meters and sea level, it's basically, it's what's called a theoretical downhill. And there's one spot about here where you might struggle a little bit. You probably can't see that, but that's iconic. So there's, for the most part, really not much to talk about because it is pretty much downhill. But that being said, Farmer, let's unpack each one of these days for these nervous few that are tuning in this evening, because despite what people may think, it is an incredibly rideable route, and from start to finish. But it's one of those where it's the faster you go and the harder you push yourself, the more rewarding it comes, but obviously the more challenging it becomes. And day one, being 82 Ks, in theory, if you're looking at stage races, it's typically not a very long day, just over 1,000 meters of climbing. Strangely enough, it's one of the most underestimated days and catches quite a few people out. So what can these freshmen look forward to on day one, and how should they go about their business, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I think first they must start in the right batch. That's so important. So lots of people start in a batch that's too fast for them, and they think they've got to stay with that front group or the group close to them, and they just hang in until one of them pops, and it's generally one partner will pop first and then the other guy, and he'll hang in because he doesn't want to let his partner out in a team event. That's how it works. So start at the right pace and look after your partner, because when he's taking shots, it just means you're going to be slower, and your partner will push himself to the nth because he doesn't want to let you down. So generally, he really, when he goes, he goes. And then teams just come straight past. So pace is super important. Obviously, it's nice to be in a group, but if you're going to stay in that group, you must be comfortable in that group. Don't be working really hard. Otherwise, just drop back to the next group, drink, eat, wait for the next group, and just be comfortable in the group. So it's nice to get pulled along in the group, on that first section through on the Pevensey Road all the way through to sort of Great Oak when we turn into and go down all those switchbacks. And then that first climb is really hard. It's called Death Valley because it's a vulture restaurant. Actually, it's not, but you do feel like you're dying there.
Farmer, that is one of the toughest climbs I've found personally. I know I'm a heavy lad. I'm certainly not a racing snake, but everyone's going so fast up until that point, especially if you've come from the coast as well. It gets you.
Yeah, it does. And that's where you see the partner taking shots. That's the first place you see it, where one guy will be sort of two sort of riders ahead of his teammate, and that poor teammate is. And that's where you actually really need to look after your partner and get him to the top of view climb feeling good, because from the top of view climb, it's quite nice and easy and quick, and you can recover nicely all the way through, right down to the first table, basically. So from there on, you do get chance to recover. You slow right down on the floating bridge, and then it's pretty much downhill all the way through Mbiba and Jared sections, nice and quick and easy. And then you go right through to Charlie's, and that's nice and quick and easy. So yeah, if you can just get yourself over view climb comfortably, then I think you're in for a good day one. But if you're struggling up Death Valley and over view climb, you know that it could be a long day. And it's a bit of a pull after the Pevensey table, so that's also always exciting. People sort of tend to race through there quite a lot, which is probably not too advisable. It's always good to just sort of realize that the day is going to be long at Pevensey, and make sure you fill up everything and grab something to eat. And then from there, it's a bit of a climb all the way up Big Ring through those pine trees. And then you have quite a nice, easy ride from the top, when you cross the road at Bulwer Station down through OG's, a really nice section. Lots of people rate that as their best section of day one, actually. And then there's a proper climb up through to Ngameni Forest. That's a long climb. You really got to get into it, and there's no reason to stay with anyone.
But even that one, it's one that I find. So before we get to the climbs heading up Ngameni Forest there, before Water Point 1, I think, this is just personally speaking, Farmer, I'm not sure what your thought on it is once you've passed View Climb and you get onto those wonderful sections of flowing track through the forests, and you come out into Jared's, for example, where it's on the side of the hill, and you're actually having so much fun that you forget to eat and drink. And I think to be riding with the mindset that you're only really going to have your first feed at the first water point's probably not a great idea. So you do want to make sure that I'm terrible. Unless I set a reminder on my Garmin that every 40 minutes I need to eat or drink something, I just forget and get excited and then blow. But probably quite important there before you get too carried away on all the trails. Because when you're in the trail and it's single track, it's fast, it's flowing, you really, you're not having to ride hard to go fast. You're caught up in that moment. 40 minutes later, and that 40 minutes on top of the 40 before, all of a sudden you're at 80 minutes, you've not touched your juice, you've not had anything to eat. I think so perhaps there would be a good idea, once you death climb, view climb, to actually start to think about getting in some nutrition towards the tops of those, so that when you hit those wonderful trails before Water Point 1, that you're actually, you've got a bit in your system. Yeah, for sure. No, and it is that. And also, Underberg's starting to get chilly in the morning. So people are cold, and they're not really feeling like eating and drinking really. But there are sections of those little short pieces of district road, like between Houstrees and Jarrett's, there's a little bit of a climb there. That's probably a good opportunity to have a drink and grab something to eat. So that you do get those sort of short sections of district road where you can, they've designed like that so you can get past a team if it is holding you up, or you can vice versa, you let a team pass. But also a good chance to get a drink, because really once you're on that single track, you can't but not go slowly, and it is fast. You're not going to take your hands off the handlebars really there. No chance. It's really fun. And heading up into Ngameni, I don't know, I often find that, yes, it is a challenge, but it's super rideable. roads in great condition, you can get into a nice rhythm, and if you've fueled well before that, you can actually enjoy it, dare I say it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it changes all the time, you know, because they're commercial forests, those, and they've harvested it. So that top section just before you get into the Manis now was all big mature pines since we started, basically, you know, since we started Sani 18 years ago. Those are all down now. So it gives you an opportunity to have a good view. In fact, I was riding there the other day with someone and said, but is this new? He thought we were somewhere else. So it does look different, you know. You will notice all those, although we're going generally in the same place, you know, tracks come and go. And gum trees, it's the sort of rotations, 8 to 10 years. So you sort of in and out every 8 to 10 years. But in pine trees, you know, that's the first time you're going to actually see a view from the top there before you go to Mlumeni. So for those of you who are here to experience this sort of scenery as well as the ride, you know, it's a good chance to just look around and appreciate your surroundings. It's part of what Sani is, you know. It's not just about racing flat out. We want you to like really appreciate where you've been, and that's why all our events are point to point. You know, we don't want to go around in circles. We want you to feel like you're on an adventure, and that point, to me, you're in the middle of nowhere and you're looking down into the sort of Crichton Valley, and you're sort of on, you know, you've come from Underberg, and now you're sort of seeing down into the Midlands more, and it's a good chance to sort of just have a look and appreciate that you're strong enough to ride that climb, and, you know, just appreciate those beautiful surroundings. And the nice thing about Mlumeni is too, a big yellowwood came down and sort of fell across the track. So, and it's just been there. No one's sawed it away. So there are no vehicles driving through there now. So, which is great because it's almost single track, you know, you feel like before it was a bit of a road, you know, and when we started, it was a proper road. I think they would grade it and stuff, and then they sort of stopped grading, and it was still 2 tracks, but now it's literally a single track. Yeah, so that's also quite nice because it feels like you're properly in the natural forest now.
I love it. I mean, it can get quite warm. Make no mistake. Yes, it is May, but it can get 25 degrees plus quite easily. I love when it is one of those days and you transition from the pine and the gum into that indigenous forest. It's fascinating to me how shade, but the variance in temperatures is remarkable. You can feel it drop a couple of degrees as you ride into Mlumeni forest, almost like riding into an air-conditioned room. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. And look for the Cape Parrots. Everyone says no, there's no Cape Parrot. There's lots.
I'm quite sure that one year that you guys had a Cape Parrot in the edit, you photoshopped that in there or something, because to this day I've never seen a Cape Parrot there. I'm pretty sure
you got to listen for them, Doug. It sounds like someone pushing a squeaky wheelbarrow around the garden. So that's what you listen for. And if you hear that, look for it. But there are lots there, which is great to see, you know. Yeah. But and then sorry, Doug.
That's the last kind of spot to chill, because the bit of sting in the tail towards the end of day one. Yeah.
You then realize that normally that's where the first little cramps might start, is going up Bowman. So you get to the second water table at Bowman's, and then you've got that climb. But once you're over that, also, you know, there's still a bit of work to be done going through Elsat's farm and then sort of around those contours and up. When you've seen the club, you know, people put the hammer down there. So if you're strong that last bit, you always arrive back feeling good. You know, you feel like you've beaten everyone, you know, if you're strong on that last bit. So I would, if you really want to have a good ride and be like chirpy when you go to the showers and stuff, make sure you're strong in that last bit. And you can see the guys that enjoyed the last bit, for sure. They chirp everyone, and in the showers talking, and you can see the guys that really, you know, had a hard day. They're not saying much, and they're drinking lots of USN and anything else they can throw down their throats. And the guys that had a great day normally got a beer or something, and then tomorrow catches them. So yeah, it's a hard day. You know, day one, everyone underestimates. They always talk about day 2, and day 3 is the last day. So, but everyone talks about day 2, and forget about day 1. Day 1's hard. It's not, it mustn't be taken lightly. And, you know, you're never quite sure where you are already, you know, because you're not sure how strong your partner is. You're not sure how strong you are. So very often people sort of hide that they're taking strain for too long. And then they really do. They have a really hard day. And I always think if you can just keep something in the bank on day one, you're that much better prepared for day two as well. You just recover quicker. You just feeling more confident, and slightly going down on Kumos. Going up the other side, it might catch you, but yeah. So day one's an important day, I think.
It's a lovely day, and I think it's got some of the hidden gems of single track on the route, to be honest. I mean, you talked about OGs, you talked about Jared's. I mean, those are just two of many. Charlie, there's just so much of the floating bridge, a PG to Bison floating bridge. Crocodiles, I mean, what's been in there for 6 years now, so it must be what, 2.5 meters in size now. I'm not sure. Those of you that have, there's Henry, the crocodile. Don't know where he came from. He's been there for quite some time. If you don't believe me, you can head onto our socials and have a look. Francie, you've definitely, I don't know if you're still with us, Francie, but I know he nearly got chopped by Henry one year. But generally, what do you feed him? Chickens, before?
Well, Egyptian geese are full up on that bridge. I mean,
really?
You go there, there's always, and he just hangs around there at the bridge and snaps at Egyptian geese all day. So, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, he's well fed, He's well fed. Yeah. No, he's good. He's tame.
Don't worry about him. Just keep up your momentum. That's basically it. And if you fall in the water, don't splash. Just be still as you can. And then we'll throw a rope or something and we'll get you out.
Yeah. We haven't spoken about the floating bridge, Doug, and I think it's worth speaking about. I think lots of events have floating bridges now. I saw that nice big bright red one. And, and the idea of the floating bridge, I mean, 18 years ago, everyone said, I've got midlife crisis. No, well, I wouldn't have had midlife crisis. Might have, probably. I don't know where my midlife is. But everyone said I was nuts with these bridges. But I mean, the whole idea of the bridge was that you couldn't really see it. So if you got Mark Leroux, the big shot media guys, nice and low down on the sort of filming the thing, and they were right at water level. I mean, all you see is literally the spray coming off the wheels. You don't even see the bridge. And that was the whole idea of the thing. And we used to have that steel bridge that was very rigid and strong. And everyone was, I mean, they were like as scared as the novices now of this bridge. Everyone was like that with that big solid, but it was literally like riding over a concrete bridge. And it was too high, and it worked, but it didn't, like, it wasn't proper. And then we started with the pipes inside the pellets, and then we put bumps, and we put crocodiles, and so it's just there for the excitement, really. But I mean,
the crocodiles or the bridge?
Everything. The bumps, the corners, and I mean, before it was dead and straight. Now it's got bumps in it, it's got curves in it. It's we've taken one pipe out, so it starts sinking if someone stops, so it's a weird thing, but everyone gets, and everyone try to copy it, and no one's got it right. I mean, some of them are just horrific. I mean, I don't know why you bother to ride over it, because they don't scare you. I mean, this thing scares you. We do put PG Bison have been really good. And in fact, like PG Bison, I mean, they were friends of ours. They were in the same community, and Dave and Lindsay helped flat out right at the start of Sani. And Dave was the mill manager at PG Bison, and we needed to do these planks. And he came in, and that's why it's called the PG Bison Bridge. It wasn't about the cash that they give us. It's about them just helping us create an event that, and all this is like epitomizes all our sponsors. They've helped us create an event that sort of attracted the attention of so many, like from the pros right down to people that it's their first mountain bike event, they're riding Sani because of things like the floating bridge. And from PG Bison, they Cup is they hold it basically. So from the PG Bison and the involvement we had with PG Bison, they're now a title sponsor, and you couldn't ask for a better title sponsor. They never, I mean, we've had some sponsors that are really hard work, and they don't see the vision, and they looking for marketing of their own things and looking after, their people. And everyone's a VIP, people pay a lot of money to come and ride Sani, and it's important, and to them it's exactly the same. Their vision and our vision are so similar, cups. And what we're trying to achieve is to create opportunity for people and to make a difference. It's been amazing how their vision they never joined us for that real reason, that it's sort of something that we've realized as we've gone along. And yeah, it's great. I mean, to have sponsors like that have helped us, other sponsors, small ones. Subaru, we're a title sponsor when we started. 18 years later, they're still with us. I mean, they're not title sponsor anymore because they're small business, and they really just couldn't do when we started. When we had one event, it was fine. Then we had two, and then it was three, and they really battled. But they're still with us, as a vehicle sponsor. And without them, basically, we wouldn't be where we are. Actually, they've helped us take guys to hospital, bring guys back from hospital, fetch stuff, take guys to get something for their bikes, so without all those sponsors, and they're all involved, and they're involved because of what they can help us with at the event, and just it's like a proper gees vibe with them. It's nothing, marketing is secondary. None of our guys are here because they want to try and market something to our riders.
It just happens on its own because they're there for reasons bigger than that, and it always ends up being the case that the downstream benefits of that is marketing exposure and all that type of thing, but it comes from the right place, which is fantastic.
We got a lot more bridges too this year, Doug. There are lots of little ones. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get all the ones up Steve Sprite.
No, look, Farmer, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about, man. 10 years ago, okay, mountain bikers didn't mind getting their feet wet, okay, because that was part of mountain biking, is you actually realized when you're riding that you're riding off-road and there's things like dust and mud and rocks and things, and you might get your feet wet. But then a lot of roadies decided that mountain biking was now their thing, but you then decided to make bridges so that the Oaks and the white shoes and the socks like Francie wouldn't have to get their feet wet. And now it went from 2 bridges on Steve Spray to, like, I believe 14 bridges on Steve's. Like, where does it end? I mean, what point are Oaks going to get their feet wet and get a bit muddy? I just want to know.
I think this year they're going to get muddy somewhere. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But day 2 is hard, Doug. And
it's hard.
It's hard, and the older I get, the harder it gets. And
sure.
And when I first started, I was like, gang ho. I mean, we used to send the guys down the tar road down into Jolivet racing. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I was nuts, actually. I mean, how we didn't kill people, I don't know. But I definitely have, like, softened over the years. But I also see what an effort some people make to finish day 2, and just to, like, be able to give them a helping hand to get over those rivers. It's just much easier.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And
in terms of your overall momentum on the day, it makes a major difference. So yeah. Don't get me wrong, right? It was all said in jest. Having ridden Iconic and Steve Sprite several times, I'm certainly grateful for the bridges.
Yeah, but let's hope we can get them. And I drowned my motorbike there at the second river crossing. And when we're working there, the driver we spray. Roy will know, because Roy actually sponsors us the chemical to chemically control the grass there. Thanks, Roy, if he's still there. But yeah, so I was busy spraying, and I spray myself, because you've got to be really responsible where you go and where you fill up, and how you do it. And anyway, I sent Pilan back. I said, no, I'm all good. I'm going to make it up all the way. The river's not as deep as I thought. And I got to the second river crossing, and the water was over the seat, basically. So the bike drowned there. And then I started walking out, and I'd never actually walked that section. And I realized how beautiful it was, because it's super quiet, and literally no one goes there. I mean, even guys hunting won't go there, because it's just in the middle of nowhere, and the bush is just so thick that there's no point, actually. And yeah, people really, while you're toiling up Steve Sprite, you've got to have a look around and see what it looks like. In fact, Mark Woodburn from we call it, Woody's Burn, that little section over the concrete rock, and then you go into those citrus orchards of his. He paddled that section of river Monday, and I don't think that's ever been paddled. So it's a really awesome section. He sent a few photos and that. I don't know if you put them up, Doug. Did I send them to you?
Yes,
But anyway,
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while I was walking up there, at the one point I was like looking into the bush, and I thought, gee, that looks steep there. And I went closer, and it's literally a cliff. Luckily, there's like a few sticks and things there, and I've never noticed that before. And how many times I've been past it, I didn't realize how close to the cliff's edge we get. And when we're flying with a helicopter doing the filming with Mark, we always sort of fly at the level of the riders and film that section. So you're right on cliff's edge. I mean, you literally can't, unless you got a chainsaw and you're going to cut the bush away, but you're literally riding a meter from the cliff's edge. I mean, fortunately, the bush is a good barrier there, and there's no reason for you to want to go that way. But yeah, it's a really, it's a good section. Riders must have a look there. It's beautiful, and I mean, I don't know how we actually found it, but it's a proper section that, and no one goes there other than if you're riding Sani. And that section too, Spongila, whose team works on those bridges. I mean, there's no way she will not let me get away with putting bridges up. They're passionate about getting that bridge in, and they carted all the poles and the planks down, and they said, no, it always rains at Easter. They're only putting the planks and the poles in after Easter, and they left them all on the bank, and they count them. So there's 9 planks per meter, basically. So they had it all worked out, and they had their nails they carried it all there, ready to like put the logs in and pack rocks around them, and then they nail the planks on. And that big flood just took everything away, including the nails. They had nothing left. So they're restocking them now. And then Thursday, we're thinking the water level is going to be down enough to be able to start the bridges. And then they tell me the rain's gone. After Easter, there's no more rain. So let's hope they're right. Yeah. But those bridges will be in. Don't worry. I'll get those all 14 in.
So, Farmer, taking us back to the finish of day one, I think we always get so excited and talk about the day in terms of the riding day. But for a lot of people taking it on for the first time, and not just riding the Sani for the first time, but potentially taking on their first ever stage race, I find that, a bit of information about more of the off the bike related stuff is probably equally as important, because for me, in many respects, that's actually where, as soon as you swing your leg off your bike at the end of day one, that's almost where your preparation for day two starts almost immediately. What are everyone has their personal preferences of how they like to go about doing the things that they do after they've had a solid day in the saddle. But what advice would you give to riders out there taking on the Sani for the first time, and those that are potentially taking on their first ever stage race once they finish their day of riding?
I think it's a good thing just to sit down right there, just after the finish line. As soon as the strict commissioners allow you to sit down, you sit down and you grab chocolate milk and fresh milk. Actually, there's both. The Orange Grove are supplying fresh milk this year, so have that. If you want a recovery drink, USN also going to be right there in that area. You can grab a recovery drink from them, but I wouldn't drink anything you haven't sort of been used to drinking. Chocolate milk's pretty much straightforward. You'll be fine if you're with milk. And then so you want to recover and get like rehydrated as soon as you can, and then try and get to eat as soon as you can. So you're not allowed to go and eat in the main marquee until you've had a shower. So you go straight up ahead of you and you get your box and you wheel that down to your tent, and then you go and grab a quick shower and then get lunch in as soon as you can. So I think it's important to try and recover as quick as you possibly can. So get showered and eaten, and then have a good afternoon nap, during the afternoon, just chill out and relax in your tent. And then obviously there's a 24-hour kitchen, so you can go back there and get us whatever you want to drink. Lots of drinks, lots of fruit, lots of banana bread, lots of eats, lots of tea, lots of coffee before supper. So you can grab a whole lot more stuff to eat and drink. So just hydrate and try and recover as best you can, because the second day is the proper day. And then the evening time also, I think it's always exciting. That marquee is massive and it fills up, and there's lots of banter that goes on. So join in with that, and then early to bed, and hopefully there's no rain that night. If there's rain, oh, it's always just a nightmare. But hopefully there's no rain, and then you get excited for an early morning start. So try and get to bed early and have all your stuff packed and ready for the morning. So it's best to pack that at home, actually. So have all your day 2 stuff in a little Ziploc bag, your socks, your bibs, your top, your arm warmers, whatever you need, keep it separate and right there ready, bottles all filled up, everything ready. Go and check your bike in the afternoon. So once it's been washed for you, you can go through to the bike pound and just check it out. Make sure no tires going flat or there's something you might not have seen, and make sure it's lubed nicely and it's all ready, and you know exactly where it is to collect in the morning. That's also important. You see guys panicking trying to find their bike in the morning. So make sure you know exactly where it is, and then you're going to sleep well, So if you're still worried about stuff, oh, I didn't go check my bike, you're going to sort of be worried about it and not have a good night's sleep. But and just as much done as you can the night before.
Yeah, I think if you can wake up in the situation where all you have to think about is putting on your sun cream, your clothes, eating breakfast, and walking across to the batch pound, then you're winning. That's definitely where you want to be. In terms of nutrition, and it's something that I harp on about quite a lot, because it's obviously going to be important to getting you through your days. Is something that's worked for me is I generally try and drink around 500 mils of liquid every hour for at least 4 hours post coming across the line, just to get rehydrated. If you are not rehydrated, you'll generally find that you won't sleep all that well, and it just really puts a lot of pressure on your overall kind of function and recovery for the next day. So don't underestimate how important it is to get those liquids back up and making sure that you're good to go. But there's plenty. I mean, there's no reason why you can't do that. I mean, flip from the abundance of water and everything that's available. It's certainly every single race village is very much geared to making sure you have what you need to be strong like a bull the next day. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's Winston Churchill said, what a well-fed army is a happy army. And we've taken the same sort of idea that, there must be food everywhere for everyone. So if it's at the seconding table or it's when you get into the race village, you just must be able to eat, because then you're generally happy. But hungry, lots of grumpy.
Yeah. Now, day 2 is the Numzan of the 3 days, I would say. I suppose that's all relative. It depends on how your day 1 and day 2 goes. If you blow on either of those, they're equally as challenging. But day 2, in terms of route profile, is certainly the most challenging. Just under 100 Ks. You look at it again at face value, just over 1.5 of climbing. You wouldn't think that, typically looking at a stage race, that it isn't all that tough. But what they don't tell you is that for the most part, all of that climbing actually only happens in 40-45 Ks. So yeah, you get swept up in the enthusiasm and adrenaline of the descent down into the mighty Amco, and maybe get a little bit too carried away. But what are Farmer Glen's top tips for day 2?
I think it's just that, just you've got plenty of time. I mean, lots of people race because they think they need to get into that single track quickly. The way we start the batches now is very few like queues. You don't see it. Before our batches were every 10 minutes, 100 teams. Now it's every 5 minutes, 50 teams. It sorted that problem out. I don't know why it took us so long to realize that, but you don't have to race to the first single track. And my advice is don't do that. Just be comfortable. Don't think you have to be there first. And so be comfortable all the way down until you get to that first single track and you come into the trees, and then try and have a look every now and again, because it's amazing where you're actually going to end up riding. And it's long. It carries on and on and on, and you get down to the river, and you go across the Umkomaas on the floating bridge, and then you're riding on the north bank, and you've actually got to pedal quite a bit there, and all the way down to St. Josephine's, to the first water table, which is also at close to 40 Ks. So it's the same scenario as day 1. You need to remind yourself to eat and drink whenever you can. And if anything, it's probably harder on day 2 to eat and drink when you really need to, because that's when you're putting your petrol in to get up Iconic. So you need to try and recover a little bit when you get down onto the bottom, wherever you can, it does open up a bit in places, and some of the single track is quite straightforward. So you
But it's farmer. That's just, it's so fun though. There's just, I mean, you're riding on the banks of the Amco on that single track through those grasslands. It's just, I mean, there's abundance of wildlife down there. For the most part, sadly, A, B, and C batches will chase them all away. But yeah, it's so stunning that you will, I mean, even more so than day one, you just completely forget to fuel. So set a reminder, not even joking. It's beautiful.
And also, the other thing is it's quite an early start, and I know you don't look the part, but to have a peak on your helmet is super helpful going down the Umco, because you're going to be leaving very early before sunrise. The first batches go, and the sun's busy coming up for pretty much all the batches. You know, so you are looking straight into, you're going east and you're looking straight into the rising sun. And if it is dusty, which it would be great if it was, then it makes it even more difficult. So we do have foam peaks that you can duct tape onto your helmet and then leave it at the seconding table if you really don't look like a peak on your helmet. But a helmet with a peak on that day,
big difference, yeah,
worth its weight, yeah, because you can just sort of keep your eyes, you know, open properly instead of like squinting and trying to see where you're going.
Good eyewear always helps for sure. Even when it's dusty, it definitely helps a lot. So that combination these are the top tips that you won't hear about anywhere else before the race. It's just kind of the
real top one, Doug, is to keep right. Don't go on that left track.
So the left line's terrible. It's quite steep, I believe.
No, I mean that first single track.
Oh, really?
This is like top tip. So if you unless you're super fast, you might get out in front of the slow oak. But if
this is between us though. Hey, I mean, don't tell anyone else, guys. Okay? Because in race briefing, they're the same. The tracks are exactly the same. You'll come out the same.
Yeah.
But the right's faster.
Right is fast. I don't know how everyone finds that out, because there's only 400 people here. But by race day, everyone will know. So yeah, and very few guys go. So there is dual track to try and just give the guys an option, and but very few people use it. In fact, like, I don't know why we still put dual track in, because everyone just goes right. But
it is right.
Yeah, but it is, if you are a novice and you didn't know that, that is the real top tip for day two. Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, it's probably half a minute actually. You know, by the time you get out to funny music.
That's half a minute. Sometimes that's the difference between 632nd and 633rd on the GC. So, you know, it's important. It's important to know those things.
Yeah, no, but everyone's racing someone. Everyone's
completely racing. Exactly. And that
means you might not even see him anymore. He's not even going to see it at the seconding table. So that's a proper hit. If you get to the first, second table and your rival isn't there when you leave, yes, you feel like a hero.
Completely. Yeah, then that's, you know what, I mean, that's one of the things that I absolutely love about mountain biking, is that races within races all the way through to the end, and you know, being on the finish lines of the event now for a long time. It's just, you know, those guys and girls that come across after those 8.5, 9 hour days, they're flipping legends, man. Sure, you racing snakes are in a quick time, and you push yourselves and your heart rate's through the roof and your pain thresholds there, but geez, major respect to everyone that rides this. And I think that's what keeps it interesting. That's what keeps people coming back. But I think we need to unpack this iconic a little bit. It truly is an iconic climb by any standards, in comparing it to any other race. For me, it's a combination of everything. It's technical climb in some respects, and that the terrain is pretty loose under wheel and can be. You can't ride a straight line up it for the most part. It's quite meandering, and there is no real point to catch your breath there, farmer. What would you say your key points of success to getting to the top of iconic without having to push hard?
I would say, Doug, you need to just, any opportunity you get to keep your heart rate down, get it. So if it means zigzagging, or it means you can just back off a little bit, do it. You know, I mean, there's not many places to actually zigzag, but but if you can rather back off on the flat section, there are little sections that you can, don't change a gear, just stay in that spinning gear and just try and get as much oxygen in your lungs as you can, because you know the next like battle is about to come, you know. And yeah, it's hard, it's properly hard, but it's doable. And you know, lots of guys have tried a few years to do it and they eventually get it right. So it is hard, but
it's worth it. Yeah, I mean, it's out of the, my success rate's 50-50 on it. And I must say, when I did the second time was both on Joburg to see, and the second one I did, and I was heading into that knowing what to expect now from the year before, but I was also really tired, and I didn't think that there was no chance. But somehow, I don't know, those, what do they call them? Something legs. What's not stage race legs, tour legs. Mike Posthumous talks about tour legs. Personally, I'm still looking for mine, and I've been on many tours, but be that as it may, somehow I made it up iconic, and geez, it was so cool. Because really, I mean, beyond that, on the rest of day 2, yes, sure, there is Highball 1 and 2, and it does kind of catch you, but it doesn't hurt like iconic does. So it's almost worth, you know, if you've got 10 matches, worth burning 8, keep 2 for Highball 1 and 2, and then you're fine. Eh?
Yeah, no, you burn them all, Doug. You got to give it that's 110%, because if you make it up there, or when you make it up there, you just feel so good. Eh? It's just it's one of those. I mean, for some people, it's just, they just know, okay, I'm not getting up there. But it's about challenging yourself. You know, it's about next year coming back and thinking, you know what, I'm actually going to go and lose 6 kgs, and I'm going to make it up iconic. And you know what, you might lose your 6 kgs, and you're really ready to make it up there, and some oak stops in front of you, and you don't make it. You know, so it's never a given. I do that on Sani Pass. You know, I mean, to climb up out of Sani is a proper challenge, and when you make it, you know you're good, and you've got to be. You can't just go and ride it. You're going to have to do something proper. Yeah.
I see Dirk, one of our members here, year 10, always at the sharp end, never done iconic yet. What? No ways, Dirk. Can't believe that.
Yeah, Dirk is doing a lot of work for us on Nonstop too, just analyzing the route and the climbs, and so thanks, Dirk. And he knows the route back to front. Eh? I mean, I tell him, you know, that tree that's got that branch that's sort of broken off. Oh yeah, I know that one. That one just after where the Hodidar sits on the rock. I said, yes, that exactly. So that's how well he knows the route, and so he's doing a lot of analyzing for us, which is going to be great. There's a newsletter going out now. When is it? Tomorrow, I think, or the next day. And he's got a whole write-up. So yeah, thanks to Dirk. It's great to have people like him that are so passionate about Sani, and it's what we did. You know, it's a Sani. One of our big reasons of doing what we do at Sani is to inspire people to do stuff. You know, and people like Dirk are inspiring all these other guys with his writing and his knowledge of the route, and just his tips on lights and where he thinks the course is going to be hard, and where your seconds should meet you. And you know, that's what Sani is about, was trying to inspire people to just do stuff in their life. And the people that he's going to now inspire, you know, who knows? I mean, I know guys that were real couch potatoes and their whole family rides now, you know, and it was just because they saw it Sani. I mean, little Michael Foster used to lube chains. He's now a pro rider. He rides for Pug. I mean, he's proper. And he was inspired by just lubing everyone's chain at a water table at the halfway stop, actually. And he was a little guy. I mean, that was 18 years ago. So he was probably 6 years old, you know, when he started lubing chains. And now he's a professional mountain bike rider, and he's doing damn well. And he's someone that everyone needs to, you know. So Sani's, I mean, we say hashtag it's more than a ride, and it really is more than a ride. It's not just about us talking about iconic and all the bridges that we build and the floating bridge, and that's part of it. But the real the real part of Sani is to get people to do stuff. And I mean, our original slogan, and it still is life's not all downhill, and it's not all downhill. You know, we're all getting older, and time goes very quickly, but it's not downhill. It doesn't have to be downhill. You can still keep riding till you're 70. I mean, look at 86. 86 was as our oldest rider. I think
Arthur Duncan.
Yeah, Arthur Duncan was 86 years old. I mean, some of us are half his age and they won't be able to.
And I believe he's, I don't know, it's not confirmed yet, but I believe he's thinking of coming and riding this year on an e-bike, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I'm a great e-bike fan. I mean, I don't have one yet, but I'm definitely will have one at some point. And the whole idea of having an e-bike is to get those people that wouldn't ride. You know, it's just too hard for them to go out and ride with that group of people, their mates, because they just ride too fast, or I just suffer too much, you know, so I don't go ride. Whereas just that little help with an e-bike, you know,
the difference.
You're gonna ride. And you know, our e-bike, our outlook on e-bike, I mean, we've had e-bikes for years actually, and we haven't pushed it really. It's just been a sort of growth on its own. But you know, CSA says that we need to have batches and I'm completely against that, because it's not what we're about. We don't want e-bikes to come to Sani and race, you know. I mean, then you must rather just have a separate Sani e-bike race, you know, but not amongst classic riders. So to me, you ride an e-bike because you've had a bypass and you still want to ride with your mate, and you fighting, you know life is not all downhill, so you still want to keep doing stuff, and you want to keep riding with the mates you've always ridden with. You want to keep riding with your kids. You want to still stay as healthy and as fit as you possibly can, but it's not possible on a normal bike. So you come to Sani and you still ride with the guy you always rode with when you were 30 years old, and you're still riding with him now, or you're riding with your son because he's happy to ride with you because you're keeping up with him and you're challenging him on the climbs. And it's not about racing. It's about racing with your partner. If you want, that's fine. But it's not about going to the front on a climb and then irritating everyone on the downhill, or going to the front of the climb, and when everyone riding normal bikes, you know, the oil lights coming on, and then you chirp, you know, because that is going to irritate.
Look, Farmer, I've got some mates in my group. If I was on an e-bike, I'd hurt them on the climbs for sure. I wouldn't care about their oil lights, eh? Just saying. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that to your mates, but in a race, it's not.
No, completely.
So, you know, as much as like CSA what they're wanting us to do is to start to an E and F batch, it just does not work. I mean, I don't think they've ridden an e-bike themselves. They don't understand riding. They don't understand, you know, what we're trying to achieve. And because you wouldn't, if you did understand, you wouldn't do that. Because what happens is the fast guys and the technical fast guys, or the guy that just wants to ride an e-bike because he wants to be the first e-bike to the finish, and we can't do that, and we're going to race from D batch, is going to irritate everyone all the way through to A batch. And then the guys that are in D batch that are starting on e-bikes and racing and are technically, they're just inexperienced, are going to irritate everyone who starts in the batch behind them. There are classic riders because they can't ride down Kamas, you know. So it's important, if you're on an e-bike, to start in the right batch. As I said, with everyone, it's important to start in the right batch, somewhere where you're comfortable and everyone around you are comfortable with you being where you are. So that's our outlook with e-bikes. We love them and we'll promote them forever. And I will ride one day, and hopefully everyone will ride one day, and won't just hang their bike up when they can't ride a normal bike anymore, and keep riding, because you can experience everything you do, you know. And some of those guys on e-bikes are making a whole lot more sacrifices than a 40-year-old guy who's fit and healthy, and you know, he doesn't really have to train too much because he's just naturally fit and healthy. And some guy who might have had like some serious issues, and he's really got to make huge effort to keep riding. And we want to have him at Sani because that's what it's about. Yeah.
The more the merrier. The first, that's for sure.
Well, not always. Not always. We're restricting numbers, eh? So.
Oh, no.
So we've been there, we've done that. So that's another whole thing.
No, completely. I mean, I'm talking more about the more people in the sport and how e-bikes bring people in, you know, as a whole. It's more bums on bikes, the better. If you're able to get out there, be healthy, healthier, or make that change, then we're all for it. That's for sure. And don't think that because you're on an e-bike, Iconic will be any easier. Yes, you might have a little bit more power under you, but it's still quite technical, and you don't want to let your back wheel slip, because the rule is if you want the pair of socks at the top of Iconic, you can't even foot dab. So there's no one's going to police it, but you have to be honest with yourself. It's right to the top, clean, no dabbing. One thing I do want to jump on, just to let everybody know, we did initially book the Zoom session for an hour and a half. If we did run over time, I've just seen now we're at 7:05. I think we'll go for the next 10 or 15 minutes. I'm hoping everyone is okay with that. I can still see 320 people online. Thank you, and we hope that you've enjoyed the conversation so far. I think Tamika's been doing a great job behind the scenes. They're answering a lot of questions that have come through the Q&A. But now's the time to start pushing through a couple more, and we'll get to those in closing. But we've moved through Iconic now, Farmer. There's no doubt in my mind that absolutely everyone will stop at that water point after Iconic. If you don't, then geez, you Superman. And because there is a little bit of work still to be done to get through to King's Harvest.
Yeah, so you've got Mandy's Mumbles, Sally's Dance, so that's still sort of recovery, but that's a good chance to swallow whatever you've eaten at the table. So grab something you can actually be chewing all the way down before you start climbing up to Highball 1 and Highball 2. So that's the bit of a climb. Highball 2 is no longer, actually, because we've found that little sneak around the contour. So it's Highball 1, and as you see Highball 2, you look left and we've built a contour path going around, so it saves us going right over and down again. So that also took us a few years to find. I don't know why, but yeah. So there is work to be done after that. We call it the halfway stop. It's not really the halfway stop. It's the second watering table. Well, actually, it's the third watering table. We have like an emergency table at just before Iconic now as well, because it can get hot.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's official sort of water table. It's not fully stocked, but you can fill up at least. Yeah. So then you climb, and then it's sort of undulating. So there, if ever you want to get on a group, that's a good spot. So while you're climbing Iconic, have a look around, and if there's a group behind you or there's a group in front that you think you can close the gap to, it's a good chance to do it there, and then just sit with them and work together. You'll stay with them basically all the way to the finish if no one pops, So you then get to High Flats Church, and then you've got to get up Knocker, which is still a little bit of a drag, and it's hard work because you've now got nearly 100 Ks in your legs, and then you straight through to King Harvest, and that little kick up to King Harvest is hard, but you can hear the finish line, you can hear the kids at King Harvest, so it makes it not that bad. Yeah, and then you finish at King Harvest, and then lie down, recover, chat to the kids, enjoy the dancing, whatever they've got on for you. But it's their highlight of the year is when everyone arrives there. And yeah, it's a great school for us to support. It's one of our big things that we do with the Sani Trust. We actually bought the school for them, and the community are absolutely amazing with what they do, with what they've got. And the number of people they educate and the way they do it is amazing, and we'll continue to support them as long as they're doing what they're doing.
It's difficult to really convey the work and the effort that goes into King's Harvest from the community around them, but also, from the sani2c's point of view, community trust wise. You'll see it on the day. You'll get to walk around, and you'll get to see the renovations that have been done. Borehole went in this year, so they're off the grid in terms of water for the most part. All sorts of exciting things, and that's from my side, I think that's something to really encourage all of you to do, is to, when you're out there, just take notes of all of these things, because in reality it's what you're enabling as riders. Without you all being there, for the most part, most of this probably wouldn't have happened. So enjoy it, and if it's your first time, thank you for coming along and making your contributions. If you're coming back for your 18th, as some of you might be, then you've been part of that journey all along. Jollyvet's a stunning race village. All the macadamia nut trees have grown, so it's a nice shaded, well protected race village. more of the same in terms of hospitality there. I don't think we need to talk too much on that, Farmer. I don't know if there's anything you want to touch on specifically there, but just being aware of the time now. Any
I think
thoughts on
just while you're riding or rolling down into Jolivet, because we built that sidewalk on the side specifically for the community to use all year round, but we did it because we really needed to get our riders safely to Jolivet. It's 3.2 Ks, and there's no other way. We've tried all the options, and each one is as dangerous as the next. But anyway, so we decided to build that sidewalk, but have a good look at it. You'll see we've planted and we've mowed and we've planted grass and planted plants all the way down there. And the whole idea of that is to try and inspire the communities and that community does. If you look at the gardens when you're riding out, as tired as you are, just have a look back before you go across the road and onto the sidewalk. Have a look back and look at the gardens and the way that community has not stood back and waited for handouts. And they're really just such a proud community that has done stuff, and with nothing, with absolutely nothing. They've planted plants and they brush cut, and we support them there with that too. And you know, we plant plants there now. Steve, who lives at Jolivet and looks after the race village, I mean, he's got people that he employs that actually runs like a little nursery, and then he goes and plants them. And he was moaning that his plants get stolen the whole time. And I said, Steve, that's exactly what we want, actually, because it means they're taking them and planting them in their own gardens, and it's what we want to do. It's giving people pride and dignity, and you can see it. It's every year I see it. I see just the people's garden where it was a mess before, and you know, there was plastic and stuff just lying around. It's no longer. And that's a great initiative we've done together with one of CUP's companies, which is Unitrans. They, you know, it makes sense. It's road safety. It's about trying to green our environment because of the carbon footprint that they do have. And, you know, they've supported that community together with us. And it's the type of things that we're trying to do, just creating opportunity for people and giving them dignity. And so once again, you know, sani2c is a lot more about, it's much more than just the ride.
So Farmer, moving on to day 3 here, I'm just looking at some stats. I just want to refresh my memory because I definitely remember day 3 being pretty much all downhill. It changes a lot, day 3. I mean, across the 3 days, quite naturally, the terrain would change dramatically. I would say day 1 on its own is probably the most diverse in the sense that you're going from the high mountains of the southern Drakensberg, rolling pastures, dairy farms, you move through the timber belt, so to speak, and then you kind of come out at Mackenzie, where it's almost quite transitional as well. Still dairy farming, a lot of green, but you start to see a lot of that kind of shale and the clay of the Umkomaas and the thorn trees. But day 3 is also, you know, completely different. It's very fast. The roads are for the most part sandy, so it drains quite well. You've got patches of stunning indigenous bush that you ride through, and then of course ending down in Scottburgh. But you're quite tired now. You've got 2 full days in your legs. What's your approach to day 3?
I mean, we always used to say day 3 was fast and furious, and it used to be when we used to have the very old route and used to go up heart rate and then race down. It was downhill for the last sort of 20 Ks. But the trek across now, so we sort of follow that Ilova River all the way down from right down to almost the coast, and then we traverse across. So that has made it harder. But yeah, it definitely, you've got to smell the sea. I mean, that's, to me, you feel that your journey is now, you're nearly at the sea. It's like ons gaan kus toe, you know. It's like when you've lived in Joburg all your life and you're going now to the beach on Christmas and you suddenly see the sea. You get that feeling. Well, you should get that feeling, I think. And you get that feeling at the top of Vernon Crook. So it's about what I said right at the beginning. All the events that I'm involved with and do are point to point, because you want to experience that whole sort of adventure, that Livingston thing. You're going to the next things, and you're going to eventually see Victoria Falls, you know. So here you're eventually going to get to the beach, and I think that, like, when you get there, to me, it's quite emotional for riders that have never done it before. So to actually get down at the sea, I mean, you've made it. You know, you've ridden from the Berg to the beach over 3 days, which is what we really wanted to. We want people to feel that way. You know, we want them to, and that was the idea of the floating bridge, was to go into the sea. You actually were going to That was a corporation, but it was a step too far. I admit that I was having a midlife crisis or something. So Mandy will tell me, but we tried, and we were silly actually, because it was tricky. It could have been done, but it was tricky. And
you live and you learn, eh?
yeah, but we still go onto the sand, and hopefully this year we've been looking, and I actually spoke to Dave Thomas today, and he was really positive about the beach and how much sand was there. So it looks like we're actually going to go on the floating bridge at this stage, and who knows what it'll change, because it's dynamic. You know, you get a high tides and some really front come through, and suddenly you've got no sand, and then you've got lots of sand. So you never really know until a few days before. But it'd be really nice for me if we can go like onto the beach, and you literally need to ride, not on the sand, we'll ride you on pellets because it gets awkward, and then just feel that you've actually made it before we go and end at the school. And I'm not at the school, at the Scotbrook golf. Yeah, so day 3 to me, and I ask everyone on the finish line. I mean, I'm always excited to see everyone get there, but I often ask them which is their best day, and so many, I'm surprised always about how many people say day 3 was their highlight. And so it's also, as people underestimate the hardness of day 1, day 3, enjoyment of day 3, I think some people estimate. So you know what, every day is different, and every day is great in its different way, you know. So yeah, I just think it's hard to beat. Sani's got a great canvas, and we're just really fortunate to have a berg, and 100 Ks later, we've got a C, you know, or 300, whatever it is.
100 Ks later, crows fly, or do we?
Yeah, as a crow flies. No, it's actually a little bit more. But 260 Ks later, we've got this wonderful canvas to work with, and we're just really fortunate to be able to do it. And the model that we've been able to sort of set up with the communities along the way has just made it possible, and it will always be possible. So long as we've got passionate people behind it, you know, Sani's going to be it's going to be like Doozy and Comrades. It'll just be always there, because it's just such a sound, solid, enjoyable thing to do, you know.
It really is. Day 3, I feel like you maybe breezed through it a little bit, Farmer.
No, that's the exact thing about day 3. Everyone does do that. Yeah, you do. Because, yeah, I don't know what more I can say about day. It is fast, Doug. It's fast, and it's smooth, and it's your body's sometimes quite sore on because of day 2. So you do feel that a little bit more, because you've got 3 days of legs, you know, of riding in your legs. But it is fast. You know, those cane roads are fast, and that decomposing granite, you know, is quick to ride on. It's sometimes too quick, you know, on the corners you can catch you, because they're like little marbles, but it's generally down too. Eh? It is generally down. I mean, come out of Vernon Crooks, out after, you know, work to be done, and it's fast. You just got to be tricky, and that's there. And then it's into Tagati Bush, it's fast. You come out of Tagati Bush, and it's quick, all the way through those cane roads. So it's quick, and it's windy, you know, it's like different. It's
very different.
Yeah. I mean, I used to get so excited. I mean, before I started Sani, it was about me just riding to go and meet Mandy at my in-laws, you know. So I would, and I loved them dearly, but I couldn't sit all day in Scotbrook chatting. Mandy could, and as dear as she is, and I would ride there, and I'd be so excited. I'd get there, I was like so excited every time I rode it. I mean, I'd get lost, and I didn't know where I was, and I would be carrying my bike through long Barbie grass, but it was just an exhilarating ride that I'm so glad we actually managed to share it with, you know. And I had a group of guys that we were training for the very first epic, and they came from Joburg, and I was training with the one son who's farm next to me, and he loved the riding so much, and we were just riding around the farm basically, you know, where I live in Ikopa, and around Mackenzie Club and things like that. And he said, yeah, he's got to bring his mates from the Swamp Dogs from Joburg to come and ride. And I said, well, if we're doing that, I've got this route from the berg to the beach, and this bunch of like strangest characters, like a cross mix of characters, people I'd never met in my life before, but just wonderful guys that just loved riding, came, and they were the ones that said to me, you got to make this into an event. And I realized you had to share it. Same as Imana Wild Ride, for those of you who don't know. I mean, it was something we rode and we just loved doing it ourselves, and we needed to share it, but we also wanted to share it, but put something back, you know, and that's the model that we do. It's about sharing something really great, inspiring people to do better and to live healthier and live longer and all those good things, but at the same time creating opportunity for people along the route. And you know, charity starts at home for me. There's nothing for nothing, and that's why the guys are probably only arriving home now, some of them, from working on the route all day, because they've worked hard and they've earned something, and they're so proud, you know, when they see the guys ride past, they own the thing. And yeah, so it's a wonderful story, you know, and there's more stories. I can carry on forever about Glen and what it's achieved and just what it's done. Yeah.
What's wonderful is that everyone will get to experience that for themselves at the event, which is very exciting, and they'll be able to go on and tell those stories and share their journey with their friends, and that's how it continues to spread the stoke. But to keep the stoke going on day 3, something that for me is the climbs on day 3 change. There's only one really where it becomes quite long and you can settle into a bit of a rhythm, and that's Vin Crooks, but it's also quite technical. Other than that, they're quite short and punchy, which is different to day 1 and day 2. So generally, because you've got 2 days in the legs, you get into the kind of the meat of those short punchy climbs. You feel that burn, and generally you want to ease off, and you know, in some cases you feel like you even want to stop. My advice is just dig deep, you know, literally for a minute more, because then you'll get to the top and then there's just a wonderful descent on the other side. So try and keep that momentum up, dig deep for those short punchy climbs. The reward on the other side is well worth it. And you know, if you can do that, I mean, your day will probably be an hour faster. Sure, you're not racing, but if you can be an hour quicker for possibly 3, 4, 5 minutes of extra suffering broken out over the period of the day, I would say prepare your mind for those short punchy climbs. But other than that, it's just a real stunner.
And the other one, Doug, the really important one when you're talking about where you just bury yourself, is Clint's Climb, because you come right at the start. So you come down keyless and across the river, and then you've got that really hard, it's quite long. It is punchy though, because it's steep. But if you can bury yourself there, maybe get a run at it, like try and drop the oaks or something before, so that you get a little bit of it, like Tour de France style, as you hit the climbs. And because if you can stay with them over the top there, you've got a free ride all the way through to Vernon Crooks, basically, you know. Well, you've got an easier ride. So if there's anywhere where I say just burn the matches properly, I mean, Iconic, you burn the matches, dead, finished. If you have to lie down at the top, you lie down at the top.
Lie down, doesn't matter.
Because those bragging rights about making Iconic and wearing the socks and walking over the stage to collect them is well worth a heart attack, basically, nearly at the
yes.
Yeah, I feel like that, and I always say, I get up there, I say, well, that's good. It's as good as a stress ECG for me. But if you can make it to the top of that, and if you can really burn everything to the top of Clint's Climb, but then relax off. Yeah.
The boxes are seen.
Vernon Crooks is one you must make. It's a bit like Iconic. So if you made it up Iconic the day before, you've got to make it up. You've got to make it, especially if you've got your socks on. Yes, if you've got your Iconic socks on the last day, and you don't make it up work to be done.
Work to be done in Vin Crooks. It's. I mean, look, it's relatively short and punchy, but it's not super steep. I think generally there, it's just about being aware of the people in front of you, and giving people, communicating in advance. If you see that they're taking strain, probably going to come off, let them know where you are, so that they have time to get off the track. But also don't ride into those climbs, even on Iconic, wheel to wheel. Be smart, give each other a bit of a gap. I think that's what's nice about Iconic as well, is that the signpost comes quite a long way before the climb. I'd say at least 500 meters. So you've got time to kind of settle down, give yourself some space, so that if the person in front of you does come unstuck, then you have room to move around. But that would be my tip for Iconic and Vernon Crooks as well. I see here Farmer in the chat, Kim Mussman says that she is riding her first Sani with her fiance, which is quite brave that they're not married yet and they're choosing to ride. Let's hope that that's still intact by the end of the race. I'm joking.
He must be a good guy if he's riding.
Completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, best of luck to you, Kim. I think in closing then, Farmer, I mean, day 3 is exciting. We get to the end. The golf course is fantastic. And just riding up that fairway to the finish in all the fanfare and the banners and the music and the good times. I mean, it's a real sense of accomplishment somehow. I don't know how you do it, but the fact that you, for the most part, shake everyone's hand or give them a hug as they cross the line is really cool. Scotbrook Golf Club, great spot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's part of what we're doing is supporting that community. They really need support, and they're just genuine people. They're just great. I mean, it's Mandy's hometown, actually, Scotbrook. So she grew up there. She grew up on the golf course, actually. Her family home's right there on the golf course, and she walked to school every day across the golf. So you never say a bad word about Scotbrook, and so yeah, I've learned that. But they are genuinely good guys in Scotbrook, salt of the earth, just like.
Hey. And that curry at the club is legit. It's very good. Post Sani curry is definitely highly recommended.
Yeah.
And Farmer, we're finishing off with something we perhaps should have or considered starting with, but I suppose now that everyone's got a bit more of a breakdown, they have more context of what to expect, what's provided for at race villages and so on. But I find packing for an event like this can be quite tricky if it's your first one. So in other words, what are you going to bring along with you? And I've always been someone that is on the side of caution and brings more than I really need. For the most part, I always end up coming back with 30-40% of the stuff that I've packed not even having been used. What would your tips for packing be for everyone coming through to the event?
Yeah, I mean, you do take too much stuff. So I would pack it individually. So work out what you need every day. So pack it all individually and shrink wrap it, or if you can shrink wrap it, but in a Ziploc and just squeeze all the air out, and it fits in quite easy. So then you know exactly where all your stuff is. So, and the other thing is that's nice to pack and have ready is on top of your bag. So on top of your box, you put a bag in there that you're going to walk straight to the showers with. So you're tired then, you get to the finish, you're tired, you just want to grab your stuff and you want to go shower and shave and do whatever you need to do in the shower and then go and eat, So it's nice at that point, if when you open your box, there's your bag with your shower stuff and the clothes you're going to wear in the race village. So if you can pack all that stuff and have it all organized, just makes life so much easier than rummaging through a box. By day 3, if you're rummaging through boxes, it gets a bit messy. So yeah, we have got that pretty good packing list. I would also make sure you wear kit that you're used to wearing. So just because you can get the wrong stuff, so wear stuff that you're used to having. And it never really gets too cold, although we have had our cold spells, but windbreaker and arm warmers are pretty much what you need if it is going to be cold, but let's hope it's not going to be that. And beanie and stuff for in the race village in the evening, because once the sun goes down, it does get a bit chilly, but not like freezing. Yeah.
Well, Underberg.
Yeah.
The registration night can get a bit fresh in Underberg. It has been known to frost now and again. So yeah, I think don't overthink it. And remember that for the most part, when you get to registration, you almost get a completely new wardrobe in your box anyway. So I think that's the mistake that I've often made in coming through to the event is you bring all the stuff, but then you get so much in your race bag or your box rather, which is awesome. So yeah, I think sani2c well known for all those wonderful add-ons that you get for your entry, socks, kit, jackets. She's really spoiled, eh?
Yeah, Mandy loves it. She loves it. But anyway, it's good, and we've got a good relationship with Salomon. So yeah, it's been good over the years. So this year is exciting kit actually. But we will also release that just before you come down, so you'll be able to see what you're actually going to get.
What you're going to get, yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
And then we sort of pack on the Sunday and we release all the stuff that you're going to get in your box, so you know pretty much what you need and how much space you need. Yeah. Otherwise, you can send stuff back too. You know, we send a truck straight down to Scottsboro. So if you've got a bike box or another bag you don't want to see during the event, maybe you've been flown in and you don't want to have those clothes, you don't want to see them and carry them all the way, you send those with the super group truck and it goes straight to Scottsboro and we bring it to you at the finish, basically. So that's when you next see it. So there is that service, but that's all on our website. It's a good idea to go through that, and
definitely
everything you need is there.
We'll also, I mean, there'll be a couple more emails in your inbox. We don't like spamming you. We're sending you an email. It's because there's some information we think that you'll definitely benefit from having and knowing. So take the time to check it out. And yeah, website is very well put together with, for the most part, every bit of information you would want to access there. It's all there and broken down for you. And we'll also, you know, again, just a reminder to follow us on Instagram at _sani2c. We'll be releasing, or at least giving you a little bit of a snapshot of the 2022 Cup sani2c riding kit. It's really, really cool. Something for everyone. Those of you like me personally, I'm like allergic to Lycra. I don't know why it like makes me break out in a rash. So I only wear ride in Pride preservers and tops. But there's kit options for everyone. So yeah, we're going to be releasing that in the coming days as well. I'm sure you'll all be quite excited for that. But I can see Tamix has been doing a wonderful job here at answering all of your questions. Thank you for sending those through. I see a lot of them asking around, a lot of the questions coming in around this recording. Where will it be? We'll send it out for those of you that joined in a little bit late by email. So really don't stress about that. In closing, Farmer, are there any final words that you would like to impart on to our remaining 243 guests?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, thanks for joining and listening for this long. We speak a lot of stuff, but I mean, we're completely passionate about it, and it would be lovely if we could convince you to be passionate about Sani at some point, because yeah, it's for a lot of people it's been life-changing, and you know, it's much more than a ride, and no one knows actually how much it does for our communities. And bottom line is that's also very important to us. So yeah, and I look forward to meeting everyone. Please come and find me, and I'm always keen to chat. So wherever I am, as busy as you as I might seem, I'm not too busy to chat to anyone. So just come and find me and tell me what you thought of whatever and where we could improve, and shit on me for Iconic because it is hard. So, but there's a reason why it's there. It gets you out of bed in the morning, and if you don't get out of bed for Iconic, you're not going to get out of bed for much. So the reason that's exactly what it is, to challenge you and to excite you and to make you feel proud of yourself at some point when you do make it. So Doug, I don't know. That's it.
Yeah, I think to all of you that are feeling nervous, I can see the chats coming up on this side. Really, you know, yes, it's good to be nervous. I think without nervous energy, you won't draw the same kind of outcome from an experience like this. But if you've done your homework, or even if you feel slightly undercooked, if you manage yourself well, if you manage your nutrition, the route is rideable. Yes, it's going to challenge you. It challenges the guys that come first, and it challenges the people that come last. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. That's why we ride bikes. But really, it's rideable, it's fun, the community is fantastic, the food is excellent, you're going to have a great time. I'd say the most important thing is get your mind right before you get there, so that nothing really catches you by surprise when you're going through whatever you're going through, whether it's, I didn't know I could eat 15 slices of banana bread, because it's possible, I promise you, or whether it's, geez, Iconic's hard, whatever. Just come with an open mind, and you'll have a fantastic time. We very much look forward to seeing you all there. Sleep tight. 3 weeks to go. Rock and roll. Thanks, Farmer.
Thanks so much, Doug. Yeah, it's been great chatting. We're going to do this again.
Yeah, geez, Farmer, you know me, I can talk. So
yeah, we will do this again. I think it's good. it's good. We'll do it, I don't know, next week sometime.
We're in the thick of something next week, though, huh?
Oh, yes, we are. Yeah.
Joburg to see.
It would be a good idea, because then we would have seen everything, and we would have got stuff sorted, and I'll know exactly where we are with the route as well.
Give everyone an update, yeah.
And how much more rain we've had. Hopefully not.
I think it's done. I agree with your teams up there, Farmer. After Easter, the rain is done.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. Let's hope so. It normally is, Doug. It's very unseasonal to get this. This time last year, we were pumping flat out. Pivots were going round and round, day and night. And I mean, this year we haven't turned them on. So yeah.
Well, we'll be in touch. We'll let you know. But have a great evening, everybody. Lovely to chat to you, and look forward to seeing you for the next one.